Well, this is a hugely dangerous incident in a very, very tense region. Russian and Ukrainian ships coming into direct confrontation, vessels being rammed, the Russians ultimately firing on the Ukrainian ships, we're told, wounding a number of sailors and impounding the vessels. Crimea, of course, was part of an independent Ukraine. The Russians took military steps to take it back. They've made it part of their own country. And of course the difficulty is that this Sea of Azov is an area of water which has around it basically three entities now. It has Crimea on one side, Russia on the other, and Ukraine to the north. Obviously the Ukrainians insist that Crimea remains their territory. But what it does mean is that the Russians stand on both sides of the entrance to the Sea of Azov. They opened an amazing looking modern bridge, really two bridges side by side there earlier this year. It's part of a strategic rivalry with Ukraine on the one hand saying it wants to step up its naval and coast guard activity in the Sea of Azov. The Russians obviously insisting that they want to counter that. Fundamentally, of course, they both blame the other. Really three things, I suppose. There could be calls for new economic sanctions against Russia, but you know, there are a lot of sanctions against Russia that have already been imposed because of their annexation of Crimea. Have they changed Russia's behaviour in any way? No, they haven't. There could be more practical support for Ukraine from NATO. NATO countries already do a large amount of training for the Ukrainian military. And of course, I suppose most controversially of all, there could be renewed calls to provide Ukraine with lethal weaponry. It's not a frozen conflict and that very little happens. It's a real conflict where people die. There are huge repercussions for many civilians who live in the combat area. It leaves all sorts of questions about Ukraine's future. It's possible the Russians could, well, I'm sure the Russians will try and interfere in the Ukrainian elections. Of course, from the Ukrainian side, there will be people who want to also step up the pressure. There will be many who want to calm things down, but there will be some who want to step up the pressure to try and get this conflict back in the headlines, to try and concentrate international focus upon it again, and to try and get renewed and added and reinforced support for the Ukrainian position.